Okay, everybody, thanks so much for being with us today. We are starting in on our fifth workshop. We're going to talk about our consistent message. And my colleague Jenny is here with us today. She's going to add some insights about her consistent message as well. Jenny, give us a quick overview of your work in the world to support family caregivers.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jeni Reinier. I have been working with Denise. I just looked this up for a little over 4.5 years now. I drawn to Denise because I am a multi-generational caregiver. I was a hands-on caregiver for my mother who had a very atypical form of Alzheimer's, and she recently passed about a year ago. But I continue to be more of a care partner for 3 elderly family members. So I'm not nearly as hands-on any longer, but I'm still managing their medication, doctor visits, legal documents, all of those. Because apparently once the word is out in the family that you know what you're doing, everybody wants you to help them. I am a certified life coach, and I'm soon to be a certified care consultant through Denise. And I'm also a co-founder of an online community that we just launched in December called A Story of a Caregiver. And I work primarily, how I started all of this and how I was because I was a multi-generational caregiver and I was so isolated and I had no support and I was so alone. And so I was asked by another Facebook page to start a Saturday morning support group because I had done Denise's caregiving facilities training. And that was over 3 years ago. So for the last 3.5 years, I've been running a Saturday support group. And that is one of where I really found my message. And I found my people. And through that process, I have not missed a Saturday. So I think that's the one thing I can really state. If I can tell you anything, that consistency is really important. We started the first few months, it was 2 people, then it was 3 people. We have roughly 20 people that consistently visit that group every morning, and which is why I'm late. So I do apologize because I had to start the group and work with the group. But I have probably 10 people that we are very close to, and they are the reason we actually started the secondary Story of a Caregiver community. Because they are really the people that have told us we are the experts, and they are the ones that have helped us create that message. And as a result of that, I work out of Facebook and Meta, and we have a love-hate relationship there, but it is where I can manage all of our events. And then we are now on Instagram as well. And that will help us reach that group of people. I'm also hoping to launch into more of LinkedIn, and we're setting that up for July. But the one thing I can speak to about consistency that I've learned a lot since December is I was very gung-ho, like, oh, I can do this. This will take a lot, no problem. I had no concept of how much social media took and how challenging Facebook can be at moments. So I am now doing much more beta testing. So for example, we did our first live Facebook live yesterday, and we only did it with a beta testing group because we didn't want to bring in a bunch of people and it not work correctly. So we're learning very much so to use the beta group before we launch out into the big bad world. So that's kind of my story. Denise, does that help tell you who I am? I'm sorry, I kind of just went into all of it. I apologize.
Yeah.
Is that
So
what you were looking for?
Yeah, I'm going to share some insights about consistent messages, and then Jenny, feel free to add in. And I think one thing you want to be clear about is the why for your consistent message.
Absolutely.
For instance, I started doing weekly caregiving comfort messages, and I started doing them, interestingly enough, 21 years ago, because I was looking for content to add to my website that was not out there already. Every Monday morning, I would post a caregiving comfort, I do this now on Caring Our Way and the Encyclopedia of Family Caregiving. The goal was to create content, but it also was to use content to create relationships with family caregivers. I wanted people to interact with my content and tell me what it meant to them. I also wanted to think through what are the insights that I have understood about a caregiving experience and to elevate them into content. So what do I understand about a caregiving experience? Turn it into content. And then I wanted my content to provide relief to the family caregiver. So the caregiving comfort messages are the reality of caregiving that I then, what I call, sprinkle with hope. So every Monday I posted these messages. I've now created a podcast around those messages. So I write the caregiving comfort, I record it as a podcast. The Sunday question, we talked about this when we started off. I started with a newsletter. I now integrate insights about questions into my presentations. I just pitched it as a keynote to an organization. And here's an insight into when you're pitching someone about your keynotes. They didn't have a big budget. So we were going around about budget. And I said, well, you know, I have this new keynote that I haven't done before. I'm happy to work within your budget and present at a reduced rate because I want to test this keynote out. So they said, okay. So there we go. And then it became a book. Beth, you have the book, I think, the Sunday Question Journal. It's a book and a journal. So I pulled out every weekly Sunday question, turned it into a journal so that you can use it as a prompt every week. So when you create content, it doesn't just take one form, it becomes additional forms. And then the last one I'll share about consistent messages is good morning messages. I started doing this when I joined Twitter, and I joined Twitter in 2009. And once I figured out how Twitter worked, I realized I needed to have a voice that was compelling on Twitter. And for whatever reason, I thought, you know what, if I just post good morning messages, that will help elevate my voice on Twitter. So every morning, and I used to do it 7 days a week. Now I just do it 5 days a week. But I started doing it, I would say in 2009, maybe 2010. I started posting good morning messages. And basically it's good morning today, wish for you, and then something nice. And what I would do is think about what do I wish for myself for today? And then I would turn it into a wish for everybody else. So here's what happened because I did these, and it just happened this past fall. I post these good morning messages now, not on Twitter anymore because I'm not on Twitter, but on Facebook, on Caring Our Way, and sometimes on Substack. I use Substack for my newsletters, and you can post notes. And sometimes I'll post a good morning note, and then sometimes I'll post it on LinkedIn. But the two platforms that I use every Monday through Friday, there we go with the loons, is Caring Our Way and Facebook. I was friends with someone on Facebook for years, and I hadn't connected with her in years, but we were still friends on Facebook. But she would always see my good morning messages. So she reached out and said, you know, I think about your good morning messages, and they're so helpful around stress management. Would you be interested in writing something for our national organization? I said, of course. So I wrote something. And then she said, you know, we haven't had you present in a while. What if you presented to our county employees about caregiving situations? I said, stress. I said, sure, of course. And then she said, you know, I'm part of this state organization for gerontologists. What if you presented to us? I said, okay, sure, of course. And then she said, you know, I'm working on a caregiving conference in November. What if you came and delivered the keynote? And I said, of course. And it was all because of the good morning messages.
Denise, can I ask you a question about that?
Yes.
I noticed that I get those in my email as well. And is that tied through Mighty?
Yes. So
Okay.
that's
'Cause I think
carrying our, yeah. So I use Mighty Networks for carrying our way. And if you follow a particular topic within the community, you get the messages I post within that topic every day.
which I think is really positive to reach your audience, because they don't actually have to go to your platform either. I'm very impressed with Mighty. I think that's probably one of the platforms I would highly recommend working. We've been researching it a lot.
So let's think through, what are the ingredients for an effective and consistent message? So Jeni, when you have been thinking about the messages you want to share on Facebook for Story of a Caregiver, what are what solutions are you solving for yourself with your consistent messages?
But they're consistent. We're sorry, I got a little confused by your question, but the problem we're hoping to solve is to give the caregiver an identity outside of caregiving.
So go back and think about, so what does it
Oh, okay.
solve for you as a content creator? So you have a problem around, for instance, I need to reach people, I
So
need to engage in a conversation, I need to create awareness.
around caregivers as a whole being not seen as individuals
No, for
alone.
you. So
For me
you have,
personally, I felt, I
yeah.
misunderstood. I'm
Yeah,
so
so
sorry. I
that's
have
okay. Yeah, so you have launched a platform.
because I felt like I was not seen as a caregiver. I was only seen as a caregiver, and I lost my identity as caregiving, as a person.
So I'm going to go back to, so you've launched a platform. So
I'm
now
sorry,
you
I'm not
have,
following you.
yeah, so now you have a problem as a platform creator, which is
Yeah,
to get traction. So you want
right,
people to come and interact with
right.
yes. So what was the big problem that you thought, oh my gosh, we're putting this out there. How do we get people to interact? How do we get people to find us? What was the big problem that you worried about? Was it people finding you, people interacting with you?
I think the biggest thing was people finding us and identifying us for our own special niche of that piece of it all. It wasn't, we wanted them to see us more as not just as a caregiver support. What we were learning from our experiences so far, for example, Denise, you have all this wonderful education and you're launching caregivers into the world as business people. We have other ones such as Working Daughter. We're much more of a place where people can come to vent. We wanted our piece in what we're really trying to hone in on right now and figure out is how we can promote ourselves. We want to gather caregiver stories, and we want people to see caregivers not only as a caregiver, but also as an individual, because we feel like individuals that gets lost as caregivers get lost. Even in support groups.
So you said something really helpful. So your problem was, how do I differentiate myself from what's already out there, right?
Thank you.
And so
yes. I'm so sorry, Denise. I got completely lost in your question, and that's my apology.
No, that's okay. So that's the problem we all have, right?
Right. It's finding our voice as the niche.
Right. What's my unique voice in the space? So that's what I faced when I was on Twitter and I saw all these people posting this amazing content. And I thought, oh my gosh.
Right.
So that's what Good Morning Messages did for me.
Right.
And then when I thought about other content that was out in the space, I thought, well, what's my unique offer? And that was my weekly caregiving conference. So thinking about the problem, which is what makes me unique, then can inspire what's my content that's unique. And then once you focus on what's my unique offering in terms of content, that's what keeps you front and center. And then it reflects the brand that you're creating for the world, right? So when I think about what is the common tie around my content, it reflects my brand around, I want to support you with emotional services. I want to support your emotional impact of caregiving. And then when you receive these messages, I want you to feel the value of being supported. How does that sound to you, Jeni?
I think it sounds wonderful, and I can completely understand what you're saying. And again, I apologize, I misunderstood.
No worries, worries. Because I think that we all face this problem of there's so much out there.
There is so
How
much
do-
out there.
Yeah, what's different for us?
Exactly. And how do we find our unique audience that we can reach and fulfill their needs?
Yep. So you could think about the type of messages you put out there, right? Could be information. Tip number 1 could be inspirational. Good morning, I wish for you. It could be thoughtful. I wonder if you guys ever thought about what system navigation is really like for you. It could be energizing. And I think when you feel relief, you then move to feeling energized. What's missing in my bullet list? It could be connecting you to a resource. What were you going to?
I was
Go
going to
for
say
it.
validating, but I don't know if that would fall into finding mutual quotes or something that would validate your client, your audience. But I don't know if that would fall into inspirational.
I think it could be its own category.
Okay.
So resources, validations. And resources could be services, providers, organizations. And how nice is it if you are someone that becomes a resource that other people start talking about? Isn't that fabulous? So pay attention to the resources that are helpful for you, and then let others know about them too. Here's a process that you can use as you think about creating effective and consistent messages. So it's, what's your why? Why am I doing this? And oftentimes the why is related to, how do I differentiate myself from what's already out there? Why am I doing this? If you have a why, it makes it much easier to commit to effective and consistent messages. If you don't have a why, it feels like, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? So if I think about how much time I spend on my good morning messages, it's really not a lot. It's not a lot, but it's a commitment every morning to write a good morning message. If I don't have a why, I'm not going to commit to doing it. But my why is, it keeps me front and center. It keeps me in relationship with my followers, and it creates additional content for me. It's books. Now it's books. Good morning messages have become books. And then what's the platform you want to use? So Jeni has committed to Facebook and Instagram and is thinking about Mighty Networks and is positioning yourself for LinkedIn, getting ready for LinkedIn. So when you think about your platform, start with one. Start with one. And then as you get used to one, then use a second. My good morning messages started on Twitter. I only did it on Twitter. And then I thought, oh, you know what? I should post these, blah, blah, blah. And I started spreading it around. When do you deliver your message? So Jeni, what's your schedule around posting messages?
We actually use Meta. So Meta posts to both of Facebook and Instagram instantly. And initially we started at just kind of ballparking it at around 9 o'clock, but Meta actually shared with us our most active time on our site is 11 a.m. So we post at 11 a.m. Unless we're posting for we do additional support groups, and we post those at 1 p.m. each day of the day of the support group, so they don't get lost within the group. But Meta helped us figure that out.
And which days are you posting content?
Every day.
Okay,
We
so you're
post
posting.
something every day. So we set it up every day. We have some kind of quote that goes out, and we create that within Canva. So it has our logo on it.
And it's every day, Monday through Friday, or
It's
7 days a
week.
7 days a week. And you schedule your posts to go out
At 11 a.m.
every day.
every day. And I didn't anticipate this, but we did have a follower on Instagram, and we had a glitch within Meta because like I said, we have a love-hate relationship, and it didn't go out for 3 days, and we had somebody reach out to us asking us close. Was wondering where we were, which was lovely. They were following us. But by doing that consistently, organically, we've grown pretty quickly with almost 119 followers with not trying. And that's with other caregiving supporters, which has connected us with some great contacts that way.
So you use Facebook algorithms to
Mhm.
determine when to post
Yes,
and to see which posts get the most traction.
yes,
So then you
for sure.
have an idea of the content that people want. And I'm curious
Absolutely.
if there's any other service that you use to help you figure out what's the content and when to post it.
Primarily, we'll see which people content will respond to. For example, we were posting, having people write stories, and we were posting those thinking that that would bring in people, and we didn't get any movement on that. So we felt like we weren't showcasing that correctly. So we pulled those off to figure out a better way to showcase the stories, because we really want people to see the stories. So now we're just doing similar quotes. We have also found by looking at what is getting the most likes, comments on, is usually quotes that are empowering women. And sometimes something with a little humor in it goes a long way. But it's a lot of times anything that are super empowering to women and reminding them that you can do this. It's going to be okay. You're not perfect, but we're here to support you kind of post. Very inspirational women post.
So it's this idea that you post it, but you pay attention to it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I have a co-founder with this, and that's on our, we meet twice a week, and Monday is when we reevaluate what we're going to post. And Meta will only let you post about 3 to 4 weeks ahead of time, and we will look at what has been positive and what hasn't. So we really look at what we're putting out there to see what is gathering insight.
Yep.
And we have had things been misunderstood. A great example of that is we posted a post saying, we need to put ourselves first. And that was actually done because we had 2 different people within our community who had let their health go. And we were trying to remind people that they needed to take care of themselves. Well, we had an actual comeback from another caregiver saying that's just not feasible. And we ended up sending responding to that comment by saying, we understand that, this quote was we would never want anybody to feel like we're judging them for not putting themselves first. We respect everybody's situation. This was actually posted to support another caregiver. And then I actually responded to her privately as well, because nobody ever wants within our community somebody to feel judged or hurt. So that was very important to us that we publicly apologize to anybody that might have taken it wrong. And I wanted to publicly reach out to her as well. She actually started meeting with us on Saturday mornings, which was lovely. We got to meet her on that place as well. But that was really important. You really have to monitor that. But it gave us a real insight on how cautious we need to be on our choice of posting quotes, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And I also think that family caregivers sometimes get tired of hearing the same kinds of things.
Right.
And we talked about
Exactly.
that a little bit earlier today around some of the myths around caregiving.
Yeah.
We didn't get too much into self-care. I'm doing a workshop with a couple family caregivers, actually one next week around self-care. And we're going to talk about some of those messages that we hear that we just think, oh my gosh, like put your oxygen mask on first.
Oh, yeah.
That one drives me nuts. And the reason that doesn't relate to a caregiving situation is because on an airplane, an oxygen mask drops down for everybody. In a caregiving situation, there aren't enough oxygen masks for everyone, which is
Right.
why we're always trying to figure out, well, who gets the oxygen mask, which is a terrible experience to go through. That's why we always
Absolutely.
feel guilty.
Absolutely. So that's something we really evaluate regularly, and it was a very big lesson learned for us.
Yeah, yeah. I have a hard time with that self-care piece when
Yeah,
it's not presented in a way that feels realistic.
and we thought we were doing that, so that was the biggest challenge. So it was a very hard space to be in because you really want people to take care of themselves, but you don't. That's not always the option. So that was, like I said, we learned how things can be received in differently.
And we also have to remember that we really are targeting a very unusual market, which people don't get in terms
Right.
of our emotional capacity to receive a message that typically might not mean anything to us until we're stressed out and tired and already feeling overwhelmed. And then it could just be a message that just hits us the wrong way.
And that is exactly how we started looking at what we post. How would we feel about this on our worst day?
Yes, right. Yeah, that's great. That's great. And I also think we're not here to tell people what to do. We're really here to support people so they figure out what's best for them. We want people to figure out what works for you.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then just remembering what's the value. And that's interesting, Jeni, you really figured out through what's the value. So we can think through what's the value. And I love that question. How would I feel about this message if I saw it on my worst day? And then thinking through, what does your consistent message look like? Is it just text? Is it graphic? Is it just image? And if you're looking for images, I use pixabay.com. It's all public domain images. I love them. So pixabay.com. And then figure out a way to save your message so that you can transform it into a book. So my good morning messages are saved on a Google Word document. So I copy and paste the good morning message from Caring Our Way onto Facebook and then to a Word document in Google. So I have a habit. I have a habit. So save your message because then it becomes your book or your workshop. You want to transform the message. It's not used once, it's used in different ways. Okay, so that's the consistent message. Okay, thank you, Jeni. So I'm going to
Thank
just
you.
stop the recording for just a minute and then we'll go into our last presentation for today.